All right, Anthony with Austin Historical Weapons Field here, guys. Going to record lesson 2 of Longsword. Because these are building off of each other, I'm not going to do, hopefully, any review. I'll probably review a couple things because they're important. And I assume you've watched previous videos and carry it from there. So again, this week, I'll be using just a random stick, 48-inch dowel, to drill the emphasis of, yes, training weapons. These things are nice. They make training much easier, but if you're just starting out and getting into this, something like this is perfectly fine. So picking up where we started last time, we were reviewing the basic cut from above. The cut from above is called an overhow, and what we're looking for is a cut that will come across not quite a 45-degree angle, closer to 20, 25 of a protractor. It's the idea that this cut from high, as I move, comes across, closes my lines. So this position, this is called von Tag. It's from the roof from the day, it's high, it's above. The goal from here is obviously a big, useful cut to hit control, working from there. Notice with this, again, I'm stepping through after my cut is in motion. My hands engage first, that pulls my back, pulls my shoulders through here. I'll have a video up this week again with bad audio. I apologize before I realized it wasn't so hot. Kind of showing how to step, when to step, and kind of working those positions. So main carry away for today is that when you are engaging, when you're fighting, when you're going to cut, you don't want to step like this and pull through. We're really looking for the sword to move first and pulling through and moving afterward. So again, sword comes out, that pulls your hips, pulls your shoulders, and forces the step, forces the cut. This is important for multiple reasons, primarily because whatever you're swinging in front of your face is what's going to stop your face from being hit. If you make a habit of just stepping in and then trying to swing, you're getting really close to your opponent without putting anything in the way. So really important when you're fighting, making sure the sword is moving first, it's in front of your body. I like to think it's basically pulling you through the cut. And again, as always, a lot of these things I'm talking about, describing, are critical as you learn, as you get your foundation of fighting and swordsmanship. But as you progress, as you find your own style and way of fighting, then maybe sometimes you will take a step first and throw a cut, sometimes just throw a cut without even stepping. There's lots of variations, lots of things, and I'm not here to argue that. Right now, we're just starting off. How do I swing a sword? How do I move? How do I engage? So, high guard is von Tag. We're really working on pulling first, stepping through after. Once that becomes second nature, once you're no longer getting stuck and moving funny, once you stop throwing more vertical cuts towards your leg or hitting the ground or anything like that, you can start working on more interesting positions to start from. The primary position that you'll see lots of people fight from is from the shoulder. This is also known as von Tag. It's still this same general area. My nerdy joke is that it's about like electron clouds. It's somewhere up here. We don't really know where it is. It doesn't really matter where it is, just that it's up. Something I do want to describe as being important and different, which you can see with this, is where the cross is, where your hand is. Whenever you're in this guard position, when you're in von Tag, throwing this cut, you want to have your cross at least above your shoulder. Right? You'll see a lot of people start really dropping it down here, try to do something faster and quicker and below your shoulder. You might as well put the point forward, because any cut from here isn't going to be very effective. There's no structure and there's no leverage behind this motion. It's a quick little snap, but it's not going to cut. And when I say cut, I mean striking hard. Yes, I can do damage throwing the sword. That might tell like this, but it doesn't compare damage I can do from here, pulling through like that. So this isn't to say this is useless, but if another sword is coming towards you, this little snippy cut is not going to protect you. So keeping in mind as you're practicing this, you really want that cross, your dominant hand, whatever, up at the shoulder and working from these positions high. Once you start dropping this low, it is far less effective. Your cuts are far less effective. It's just not a useful place to be in especially, again, starting off, learning how to move, learning how to fight. So I want to talk a little bit about the applications, usefulnesses of these different positions from the shoulder, from above. Again, they're all for cutting. They're all for making this big sweeping motion that comes across your body, closes your lines of attack, all those good things. But the difference here is kind of intent, intimidation, and motion. This is great at saying, like, yes, I'm coming. Yes, I'm going to cut. Yes, I'm going to move. I'm doing a big motion. I've got all this gravity, all this force on my side. And it's got all those same drawbacks, right? This is saying, yes, I'm cutting, and yes, I'm cutting. We got all this big motion built up, which means it's going to be a little bit slower. And I don't mean velocity slower, just a longer tempo to come from here than it does from here. So if this is big and dumb and telegraphic, why do we do it? Why is it useful? The most important thing to me about this position is up high, arm straight, lets you have structure the entire time. This entire path, if my sword gets hit anywhere in this arc, I have my whole body behind it. My arms are straight, my shoulders are engaged, my back is engaged, everything is solid and through. It doesn't matter if I hit here, or if I somehow like bend over and hit here, I have just as much body structure, body mechanics, kind of that motion, no matter where I get hit. As I said, though, the problem is it's a lot of waste energy. If we pretend my opponent is this very short pell, anything from here to about here is a waste of time, right? This is a very big motion, and you can argue you have a little bit of build-up speed. I don't want to start my cut here and try to do that motion, though some people can if you get to really advanced cutting. All this, though, is just wasted time, wasted space, telegraphing what's happening, giving my opponent more time to react. So if I start from my shoulder, I can throw my arms to that position where I'm in structure and then finish my pull as I move. And this is why, or how you can use this position just as effective as this position to not lose that structure, not lose that power you're developing with straight arms. So I make people, when they practice, start off with this straight arm position. And basically what this does is gives you a full arc, full circle of this is a good place to be. I can pull my body through this motion. But once that becomes easy, usually a week or two for most people of good practice, not just watching these videos in a row, starting from here begins to make more sense. From here, you can learn how to kind of throw your arms out to that structure position we had before. So if you notice, as I'm here and pulling through, when I throw my arms out from the shoulder, I'm going to that same arc I was just in before. I'm just doing it faster. And this is how you can start using this position to not kind of snap these little weak things out, breaking the wrist and slapping the arms out, but really going high, getting your power and pulling through. And this is where a lot of time can be developed, getting those timings down, getting that kind of that groove of body mechanics, of kinesiology of I'm here, I'm extending to high position, then pulling through after, and not sacrificing the structure and strength of being up here. So something to build up with, something to play with, just getting used to starting low, stretching out to high, and pulling through. So the next thing ties into this, and you can do it from high if you're still working on that, or you can work from the shoulder and build this up, is twofold. First, you're going to be talking about distances. Second, we're talking about stepping and following and moving through after. I haven't done much on footwork with this. I'm probably not going to, because you can talk to 100 different people and get 100 different answers about how to move your feet. So I'm going to give you guidelines and basics of what you want to accomplish with your movement and let you find a way that works for you and how you can find that to your own style of fencing. So one of the most important things, again, I might have talked about it before, is my first strike. If this is my target, my opponent, I am not coming in and hitting here. Because if I hit here and I get this stuck in their shoulder or even, their neck, their head, whatever, this part of my body is still exposed, able to be hit. right? So control their weapon before it comes over and hits me over on this side. So whenever we are looking to engage, looking to control a fight, looking to close our range, our first strike should not be trying to hit our opponent. Instead, we want that to be, I say, 8 to 12 inches in front of their chest. So this is my opponent. I'm swinging to hit right about here. So what that looks like instead of hitting, I'm going to come through there. And now we start getting into, do I swing all the way through? Do I stop my swing at long point, this extended position? What do I want to do with that? And that, unfortunately, is very situational. There's no good answer. There's no solid answer to that. I can promise you, though, that if you do throw a cut and stop it here, and some reason your opponent hasn't moved and engaged, you can just lean from the hips, pressing through, and that's basically a quick free action that no one's going to be able to stop. So throwing this cut, even if you stop short, leading through there, following after, and driving in. So first thing is range. Next, we're talking about footwork and follow through and how to apply and move through everything else. One of the biggest problems I see new fencers run into is that they will throw their first cut and lock up and freeze. And a lot of that comes down to how you train and how do you move. If you sit in your backyard and practice, okay, Anthony said, practice this cut 100 times a day, and you go like this, and land a nice big heavy cut, right? And I'm rooted and I'm here and I'm stuck. I am stuck and I'm solid. I'm actually teaching myself to overstep just a little bit because I want to land in a strong, heavy position, which is good for test cutting, good for technique cutting, but it is not useful for sparring and moving around. So instead of thinking I'm throwing one cut and I'm done with my drill, really get yourself to think about throwing or taking a next step after every cut you throw. So if all I'm doing is a one cut combination, starting off with my simple right overhow, I step, and I'm immediately thinking I want to take another step. I don't care what my sword does. I can snap it up like this. I can do it with a false edge rising cut like this. I mean, you can do all sorts of, you can wind around to throw a cut from the opposite side. The goal isn't what the next cut is. The goal is being able to make a next cut. So again, a lot of people, myself included, have a habit of throwing a cut, I'm done. And you can see this foot's really far forward. I'm kind of evenly spread on both feet, which is great if I want to power through something and drive through. But the reality of it is that if we're sword fighting, I need to be able to move again. I don't get to throw a cut on an opponent and get here and do nothing. So as you throw this cut, think about immediately taking another step. Whatever that is, whatever that motion is, it honestly doesn't matter right now. We're just building habits and building body recognition awareness. So throwing that cut and immediately stepping through to whatever happens next. So what that looks like on a PEL. And this is going to assume our opponent does nothing. We're again swinging for this first cut to kind of fall about 8 inches short. So I'm here, I throw my cut, and I immediately move around and do something else. I can bring the false edge up. I can do whatever I really want to do. I can wind into a thrust. It doesn't matter. The goal really is not stopping here, but knowing that something else has to happen. If the fight isn't over because I've thrown a cut, I need to be able to move and step and press through. And that little trick, that this one trick, but that little mind adjustment of the fight's not done here, this drill's not done here, I don't care how many cuts I'm throwing, I'm always taking an extra step. We talked about Meyer figure. I don't think we have any Longsword yet. Right, we have 4 cuts we talked about. And up the same line, up the opposite line, and down. Last extra step. Always adding the extra step in. That can prevent you from doing something like this, where I'm driving through, and now I get stuck, because I'm not thinking about moving. I have too much weight forward in front of myself, and it's hard to make this step without going backward. So with smaller steps and thinking about always having this next step ready, you have a much different ending of your cut and gives you a lot more options for movement, mobility, and things to work out of from there. So I think that's it for today. Next week, we'll dive into more. Next Wednesday will be more longsword. Friday will be more sword and buckler. If there's any questions, comments, feel free to reach out, comment below, Facebook, email, things like that. Otherwise, have a good night, guys. I will see everyone on Friday.